All right, so first off, all praise to Yahweh. All praise to Yahweh. In the name of his son, Yahweh Shai. In the name of the Holy Spirit. Double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the Prophets of Doom. These are where I have learned this truth, and these are where I am still learning this truth. And also, Shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel, Lord willing, I am of that number. All right, so picking up on the heels of the previous video, we're going into Daniel chapter 2, and we're going to pick up at verse 31. All right, with the subheading being the king's dream. All right, Daniel is about to prophesy to this man. Okay, he's going to tell him what is present and what is in the future. All right, so it reads, "Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them into pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floors. And the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth." Man, the scriptures are so tough. It just ran through everything, even past today. All right, this is speaking of the end of that verse. It's speaking of the kingdom being set up on the earth and lasting forever. All right, that stone that smote the image and became a great mountain is Yahushua. All right, that great mountain is that rulership that's going to last forever. Okay, and it's going to fill the whole earth. All right, after it wipes out all these other kingdoms. All right, but we're all the way back here at the head of gold. Now he's going to interpretate this to Nebuchadnezzar. All right. So now verse 36, Daniel 2 and 36, with the subheading being the interpretation. Babylon, the first kingdom, says, "This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory." Remember, we read up earlier. Let's see. Daniel 2 and 21. Well, Daniel 2 and 20. Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of Yahweh, Bohoshim Yahushai, forever and ever. For wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise and knowledge unto them that know understanding." So he set up, he being Yahweh Bohoshim Yahushai, set up Nebuchadnezzar. All right. And Daniel's about to tell him what else this vision means. And this is why the vision troubled him. Daniel 2 and 1. "And in the second year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams wherewith his spirit was troubled and his sleep brake from him." All right. So he had to know. He had to know what this meant, because it troubled him. Okay. So let me start at verse 36 again. Daniel 2 and 36, with the subheading again being the interpretation. Babylon, the first kingdom. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the power of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. All right, he didn't get that on his own. He got it given to him, okay? Which is missed upon Esau in this day. He thinks that he gained everything of himself, but these things had to play out. The Lord's words, the Lord's word, all right, set these things forth, including you ruling right now, all right, and acting a fool, okay? Speaking of Esau. Anyway, Daniel 2 and 38. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold. Now, sometimes beasts speak of beasts. Sometimes beast speaks of people, kingdoms, rulerships, dominions. Okay, you have to be able to spiritually discern what's being said. Daniel 2 and 39, Medo, Persia, and Greece. All right, I already went over the head of this vision. Hold on. It already went over that head of gold, right? So now Daniel 2 and 39, with the subheading being Medo, Persia, and Greece. All right. Daniel 2 and 39, and after thee, all right, after you, Nebuchadnezzar, shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. Inferior to thee, as we spoke about earlier, you have a head of gold, and it just keeps deteriorating, all right, down to the feet of iron and clay. Okay? That doesn't mean these kingdoms wouldn't take over the previous one. It just means that they were degraded, all right? I already shut that window for the definition of degradation. All right, the quality of these kingdoms lessened, even though they even though they were more powerful. All right, but again, it was the Lord taking down kings and setting up kings. They didn't get it on their own. Daniel 2 and 39 again. After thee, Nebuchadnezzar, right? After you, Nebuchadnezzar, shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Okay, remember, Medo, Persia, and Greece. So Persia ruled after the Babylonian Empire, and then Greece. Okay, Greece took over Persia. All right. Daniel 2 and 40, with this subheading being Rome. Okay. It says, and the fourth kingdom shall be and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. All right, it's gonna, through its military might, it's gonna break up all the kingdoms that were previous to it, and the earth. All right, the all the known world at the time, Rome was gonna take over. Okay, just as Greece took over all the known world when Alexander was at the head. Okay. Daniel 2 and 41 now, it says, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, So the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So this is speaking of today also, but still Rome. Okay, because this is the second leg of Rome. All right, that iron mixed with that iron mixed part clay. All right, that's the rich and the poor of the Edomites not sticking together, and the rich and the poor of not only Edomites but also in Psalm 83. All right, in Psalm 83. Let's start here at 2. Okay, it says, "For lo, thine enemies," speaking of the Lord's enemies. All right, the heading of Psalm 83 says, "God implored to confound his enemies." Let me go and start at 1. It says, "Keep not thou silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies," all right, the Lord's enemies, which in turn are our enemies. "For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head." All right, they've become very prideful. All right, making all types of noise around the earth, speaking against the power of heaven. Psalm 83 and 3. "They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come and let us cut them off from being a nation," us, Israelites, "that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance." So, cutting you off from walking in the image of Israelites, of Israel. Okay? The manner of life that Israelites should walk in. All right? Israelites, in the Hebrew, Israel is Yah, Shar, Allah. Yah meaning he, Shar meaning prince, Allah meaning power. All right? We are princes of the power. But what's the problem? The problem is that we are not walking in accordance of that name, because that name has been cut off from being known as a nation. And they were hoping that it was no more in remembrance, but the Lord always kept a remnant around. Okay. But most people don't know who they are, so they are dead, basically. All right, they're walking around in the congregation of the dead. Okay, just as Eve, when Eve got a hold of that, when the serpent told her, take these philosophies and beliefs. All right, she walked outside of knowing, outside of the knowledge that she should have been in. Okay, which made her dead. She was of the congregation of the dead. Okay, man, boy. Anyway, Psalm 83 and 5, it says, "For they have consulted together with one consent." They are confederate against you. Now, who has consulted together with one consent? Meaning, who are of one mind to enact this thing, right? To cut us off from being a nation, that the name Israel may be no more in remembrance. All right, who are they? Who are the ones that consulted together with that consent? All right, who are the ones that are confederate against us or joined against us? Psalm 83 and 6, "The tabernacles of Edom and the Ishmaelites, of Moab and the Hagarenes, Gebal and Ammon and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also," which Assur, all right, "also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah." Okay. All right. So all of these nations outside of Israel, which a lot of these nations have different names now. Okay. Edom is a so-called white man. Does that mean that all people who look so-called white are Edomites? No. Okay. Even Israel is scattered into all nations. This is saying the bulk of these nations are among these people, all right? And the Ishmaelites, who are the Arabs, all right? Islam, okay? The Arabs of Moab, all right, or China. And the Hagarenes are the Iranians, I believe. I'm going to have to go back and look. All right, I'm pretty sure those are the Iranians. Gebal and Ammon. Ammon are the Japanese. And Amalek, that's them people over in the land calling themselves Jews, all right, or Israelis. All right, Amalek is the grandson of Esau, okay? Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, all right? Even those Palestinians over there, that's not their land either, all right? That's not their land either. But it is showing, all right, we have no horse in that race, okay? But that is showing how barbaric, beastly, all right, Esau and Amalek are, all right? They're doing the same thing to those people over there as far as, you know, you see what's going on over there. I don't really want to say too much because they'll find any reason to take these videos down, all right? But these are the ones that are against the Lord, all right? Not only are they different nations that Esau's trying to join with, or that are trying to join with Esau, but there are the rich and the poor of these nations also. That iron mixed with miry clay, okay? Esau has a great military because his blessing was the sword, all right? To live by his sword. All right? And all these people are trying to join under him. They were taken by his divination, by his enchantments. Okay, so this is what we're speaking of when we talk about that iron mixed with miry clay. And this is still, again, this is the second leg of the Roman Empire, or the red dragon. Okay, the scarlet beast. Okay, so let's go on back to Daniel chapter 2. This is verse 44 now, with the subheading being the divine kingdom. It says, and in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom. All right, it's going to happen in our lifetime. All right, Lord willing. Okay. And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It's only for Israel, man. It's only for the Israelites. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. All right, speaking of Israel again, reiterating that it is only for Israel and that no one is going to stand against us, man. All right, they're never going to have a dominion again. No more beasts are going to rise. All right. Daniel 2 and 45, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it brake in pieces the iron, the brass, and the clay, the silver and the gold, the great power Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai hath made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof is sure. All right? So this is just an introduction of when we get to talking about them beasts. We went over Babylonian, Medo-Persian, the Greek, the Roman empires right here, which are dominions, beasts, okay? And as we go on with these videos, Lord willing, it'll be more clear to you as long as you keep these things, all right? So just going back up to the Nebuchadnezzar's words right here. What was that? 8 and 9. Daniel 2, 8 and 9. I'm gonna read these in the NLT. I want to start at 7. Yeah, let me read it. I'll just go straight to the point, 8, 9, especially since we may do a reading of this in the NLT. So Daniel chapter 2, 8 and 9 in the NLT, it says, the king replied, I know what you are doing, speaking to the so-called wise men, okay? You're stalling for time because you know that I am serious when I say, if you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But but tell me the dream, and then I'll know that you can tell me what it means. Now, hold on a second. Let me go back to 5. Daniel chapter 2, verse 5 in the NLT. But the king said to the astrologers, I am serious about this. If you don't tell me what my dream was and what it means, you will be torn from limb to limb, and your houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. But if you tell me what dream but if you tell me what I dreamed and what the dream means, I will give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means. Now, I read that because right here, which I'm not going to read too much more into this. Oh, well, man, maybe I will. All right. Uh, Daniel 2, I'm going to read 46 through 49. I want you to keep in mind that Nebuchadnezzar meant what he said right here. All right. And then we're going to make another point. Daniel promoted is a subheading. Daniel 2 and 46, it reads, Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. The king answered unto Daniel and said, Of a truth it is that your power is a power of powers and a lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. Then the king made Daniel a great man and gave him many gifts and made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief of the governors over all the wise men of Babylon. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. See them names change. Shadrach is Hananiah, Meshach is Mishael, and Abednego is Azariah. All right, they changed them right here. But you know their original names up earlier in the chapter, okay? Daniel 2 and 49. Then Daniel requested of the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king, right? Second in command, man. Just like it said in the explanation of his name. All right, he was second in command. Only the king was over him, okay? Reminiscent of Joseph back in Egypt. All right, this is how the Lord works through his men, okay? But I brought up what the king had told him that he meant because we spoke about degradation. The head of gold being Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, all the way down to the kingdom that we're in, the second leg of Rome, being uh, far from gold. It was iron and clay. All right. They tell you, just for example, they tell you what the American dream is. All right. But really, it's a damn nightmare, man. All right. They don't mean anything. You think you get up, but then you get the vice grip tightened on you. All right. They tell you that if you go to school, do hard work or whatever, that you are going to be all right here. You're going to be able to live. All right. Freedom. Realize what freedom is. Is that true? No. The more you open your eyes up to this place, the more that you see that you have a vice on you, man. All right, these people don't mean what they say in this day. That speaks to a little bit of the degradation that it talks about with these kingdoms, these dominions. All right. So we still got more to go to get to the beast. All right, but Just keep in mind those things that we went over, right? It was Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, right, and Rome, right? And Lord willing, we'll get into the Greece and we'll touch on the Greece and the Rome part because it has to do with the beast, all right? So I hope this came through as sincere and edifying. And with that, all praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakaha Kodash. All right, or in English, all praise to Yahweh, in the name of His Son, Yahweh Shai, in the name of the Holy Spirit. All right, double honors to my elders, apostles, and the bishops of Great Millstone, otherwise known as GMS for short, but also known as the Prophets of Doom. These are where I have learned this truth and where I am still learning this truth. And also shalom to the remnant and the elect of Israel. Lord willing, I am of that number, and Lord willing, we'll see you in the next video. Shalom.